Hello, hello, hello.
Hi. How you doing, Benjamin?
Doing good. How's everybody? Today we're going to be working on the map. Got this map here, the Mucklands, and this is not, I'm gonna actually draw this. This has been the test map that we've been using, made with a program called Hexographer. And so I've already gotten started a little bit. So what I've been doing is I reduce the opacity here.
So you can still see all of the locations that are going to be in the Muckland sandbox, which we've only talked about a little bit, but the Land of Eem RPG, the Rickety Stitch RPG, if you're familiar with the graphic novel series, is going to have its own sandbox. And so Ben and I have been working on creating towns and quests and characters and additional random encounters and tables. And so you can see, it's hard to read some of the names, but as we hang out today, we're gonna zoom in on some of these and talk a little bit about them in detail. And we want to get your feedback as well.
Hey, George. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Huh?
Howdy, Georgie.
All right, so I put together this really rudimentary key here. Doesn't look great, but it's workable. And that's what you need to get started. I'm not going to try to make this look beautiful right off the bat. It's just like sketching in all the stuff. And I started out by, sketching in the rivers and the coastlines. And this is the Quagmash, which is the swampy area.
If we could talk about the regions a little bit before we get started, I guess you can start drawing and I can talk about the regions a little bit. But so the Land of Eem, that's the world of Rickety Stitch. And Rickety Stitch starts out in the Mucklands in book 1, The Road to Eppley. You can see down here, I can't point to anything, but Rickety Stitch starts out, we see him at Wally's Waffles and Wargs after he gets kicked out of Orfong's dungeon. And the Mucklands is made up of several different regions that include the Used to Be Forest. And the Used to Be Forest is literally, it used to be a forest, but now it's filled with trees that have been chopped down and stumps and old mining and industrial camps that have been created by the goblins during this, what we call the dungeon era in the Land of Eem. And to the east is Fleabag County, which is filled with cities and kind of scum and villainy type vibe. And to the south is the Quagmash, which is a frontier swamp area. And to the north, I should say northeast, is the river country, which is filled with, like it says, it's filled with rivers and river barons and riverboat gamblers and all sorts of ne'er-do-wells and creatures and things. And so we wanted to create a sandbox that had a lot of different flavors to it, but still, adhered to the vibe and tone of the Rickety Stitch books.
Yeah, indeed. And off to the left, I don't know if you mentioned the Drippy Downs.
Oh yeah, of course.
Is a land of rolling hills and wilderness, trolls and dwergs, and then next to it is the Grimly Wood, where Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo went in the first book and met Nerman and Ziggy and Golo the Gargantuan. Oops. So I'm just going to get started.
Yeah, very cool. So going back to that key that Ben made, if for those of you that saw that, that's really helpful when you're creating a map of any kind. But for RPGs, it's particularly helpful because folks like to draw their own, and it's a lot of fun. And so a map key gives you a way to kind of stylize your map before you discover something that you like and have to draw the whole thing over or whatever. It gives you kind of like a simple resource for yourself. And so Ben drew some mountain concepts and some hill concepts, and you can see right now he's putting in the rivers and the coastlines, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty big sandbox. It's an extensive sandbox with dozens of towns that are not even all listed here yet. Factions that are all interacting with each other, and individual characters in every town, individual quests in every town. It was quite an undertaking, but it was also a lot of fun too. And we feel like it'd be a great resource. I mean, campaign settings and sandboxes are pretty great resources for any person running a game. And what's great about the Mucklands and the Land of Eem is that you don't necessarily need to use the rule set for the Land of Eem for the Mucklands setting to be available and usable for you.
Hey, Mike Balestre, how you doing, man?
Hey,
been a long
Mike
time.
Balestre.
And Borix, thanks for coming by.
Howdy.
Books 1 and 2 to watch the bro being created.
Another tricky thing with creating a sandbox is making sure the distances between stuff both make sense and is accessible. So when you create a game and your party's adventuring, it's got to have some logic to it. And so you can see Ben's been working on the rivers as well as the roads as ways to get from one place to another more effectively.
There's also there's a hex layer on this. These are the hexes that you would move across like a game board.
And they're really helpful because if you like to have a version with the numbering system on it, you can track like what you discovered or what encounters you had or what you did in like a little adventure journal, which a lot of folks do when they play. I know we do when we play with our pals. We have like little adventure journals to track everything because it's cool to look back and see what you did and keep track of characters and the interactions you had and stuff. Getting some mountains in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I don't know how this is going to look, but we're just rolling with it.
I think it's going to look awesome. That's what I think. Anytime anyone makes RPG maps, it's super fun and awesome. So I got something. You might be wondering why Ben is drawing the mountains in blue. And so whenever we do events, we always talk about this. But back in the old days, before computers were used to create brilliant comics and art, artists would use a blue pencil because when you scanned it into a machine, the blue pencil wouldn't come up. Only the ink that was over the blue pencil would come up. And Ben has adopted that tradition even with digital, so that he gives himself kind of the blue sketch, and then he goes over it and inks it to where he likes it, and then we hide the blue layer. A little fun fact there for you. You know what I mean? A fun fact.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I just use it because it's easier to draw over with black than using gray or something.
Right.
Mike is asking, how many hours have you put into this build so far? Countless hours. It's been a labor of love. We love it. I don't even know. Making this map itself wasn't that many hours. I was using a program called Hexographer. And I've really been putting off drawing the map because it's kind of daunting and not necessarily my wheelhouse. But we've been spending a lot of time on the RPG itself over the last year or so, and then working on it for years before that as well. Borax, yeah, invite your friends. That'd be awesome. And George asks, have you thought of increasing the number of hexes per inch, or are y'all pretty happy with what you have? Do you mean making the hexes smaller or bigger? Because they were smaller. And through playtesting, we made the hexes bigger. Yeah, so when we were playtesting it, it seemed like they were too small. So I increased them a little bit. And because they're supposed to represent like 6 miles per hex. So when you think of it that way, it's like kind of, 44 times 6 is how long across the Mucklands is.
Yep, there is a scale, George. Faux sure.
Okay. Problem is there aren't really forests. Should I just draw stumps?
Yeah, actually, it should definitely be stumps. That's great. Borix asks, let's start on the Night Girl. Forgot her name. Her name is Epily, actually, the Knight Errant. And, or will it start on Rickety? Because there is a man who wanted to kill her. So the Land of Eem game centers in the Rickety Stitch world, but you can actually create your own character. And that is a Knight Errant, a bard like Rickety, a loyal chum like the Goo, a dungeoneer like some of the characters that Rickety encounters on the road, like Goulahan or what have you. Or you can be a gnome, or you can be a rascal, which is a little bit like a thief or a rogue.
That's what Ziggy would be.
That's what Ziggy would be. He would be a rascal. I'm digging the stumps. I think that's going to look really cool.
What is an interesting location we can put in from the sandbox, James?
Yeah, we'd love to get some. Why don't we ask people what they'd like to see? Like, what are their favorite things in fantasy maps? Let's see what people say.
In addition to that, I was actually asking you to look something up on the.
Oh, sure. Let me open the Great Mucklands Sandbox Realm Tome,
just so we can maybe draw something more interesting than stumps eventually.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Let me see.
Stumps.
Let me see. Used to be forest. Well, one spot that you could draw is Wally's Waffles and Wargs. I mean, that's a classic location in the Rickety Stitch universe.
That is true. Better pull up what that looks like.
Orc says, I started reading the books because Rickety looks like a character from Undertale called Papyrus. Oh yeah, we love Undertale. Love the idea of you drawing character ideas. Reginald Vell Johnson 21 asks a map of all the locations of Wally's Waffles and Wargs. We should put out just like the franchise map. And
Yeah, we talked about that before, like having one of those fast food chain maps.
Yeah, it would come with crayons, and it would fit any tray, and it would have puzzles on it, and word searches.
So I'm just opening up a PDF of book 1, just for reference, of Wally's Waffles and Wargs. Here we go. That's what it looks like. So I want to make sure to, because we're going to, it's going to be like a pictorial map with things that are not exactly drawn to scale, but are there for your viewing pleasure. So I want to make sure that this is exactly on the hex.
Borix is open in book 1 as well. Excellent. He also asks, will there be a forest landscape like the landscape in the start or book 2? So the short answer is yes. The long answer is we're going to be working on the Grimleywood sandbox as soon as we complete the Muckland sandbox. Our intention is to create a bunch of GMing tools, which is game mastering tools, so that people that are running games have a lot of different resources and locations to work from, and then they can make them their own and tell their own adventures. And we just help kickstart it by giving them characters and adventures and locations and conflicts. And of course, reams and reams of random tables of encounters and NPCs, and just a lot of tools to create your own games. That's something that we're really passionate about. So for those of you that don't know, Wally's Waffles and Wargs is the location where Rickety goes to amateur night and plays for a crowd at the beginning of book 1, The Road to Eppley. And we've got a little bit of lore here. Wally's Waffles and Wargs, situated on the northwestern front of the used-to-be forest, Wally's Waffles and Wargs has been serving high-quality, home-pressed waffles and freshly slaughtered warg meat substitute since '82. Founded by Wally Purvis Dunkwiffle, the retired hero bandit and human dwarf, not to be confused with a dwarg, the restaurant is an icon in bandit, brigand, rascal, and ne'er-do-well underculture. Thieves convene to plan their heists, robbers split their takes, and seafaring freebooters traverse the used-to-be forest in grand caravans to sell and barter their booty.
All right, I just penciled in Bogwatch, which is a little outpost in the used-to-be forest, kind of bordering the Quagmash, where a group called the Bulwarks, they're a faction in the game, they're kind of like wandering law enforcement in the used to be forest, mostly made up of bogrels, which is the same species as Duke in Book 2, as well as the bogrel junkmonger. And their whole thing is just kind of protecting the used to be forests and the roads. And so at Bogwatch, they're kind of
keeping an eye out on the quagmash, which is
defending against orches and other creatures,
and gators and river soars and all kinds of swamp monsters.
And their main fort is right here, Fort Bulwark. But their whole thing is that they're way undermanned. No one wants to be a bulwark anymore.
There's too much crime. There's too much monsters. It's tough out there in the Mucklands. Borix asks, will we see characters from Book 1 that we didn't see in Book 2? Yeah, you will actually. The Mucklands sandbox is filled with characters that are in the Rickety Stitch world, as well as many, many new ones. So they're there. You just got to go searching for them. Also, for those of you who have read the lore on ricketystitch.com, we've got a bunch of posts that we did over the course of the years, background stories on characters and locations. Some of it really gets in the weeds, like you'll see something on Nerman the Gnome's shelf and we'll tell a story about it. A lot of the lore that we created is incorporated into the Mucklands and the Land of Eem RPG. And so there's just tons of stuff to geek out on if you're looking to learn more about Rickety's world and what it's like to live there.
So I just realized that I don't want these buildings to look so flat. Kind of want to give them some perspective. So that's what I just did here.
What do you think, Ben? What other ones could be cool?
What other what?
Locations.
Some of the cities.
Mm-hmm. Junktown. It's a classic. Krogland.
Is that basically where Krog's claim is?
I think it is. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Krog is one of the villains of Rickety Stitch Book 2, the Middle Root Run. And he's a goblin tycoon who has hit it rich and has a town of his own that's based around his first claim called Krog's Claim. And in that town, Krog has built a theme park in honor of himself called Krogland. It's kind of a self-serving, hilarious theme park where everything is Krog themed. There will be adventures that take place there. Got his top hat there. So Ben and I have been spending a lot of the stay-at-home orders for the coronavirus working on a bunch of new projects and Rickety Stitch projects. Book 3 was just completed, and it's been shipped off to the publisher. And we'll be hearing word pretty soon about when that's going to come out. Should come up with a good template for like caves.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
And Boric says, "I'm sad I can't order the book. You will be able to as soon as it comes out." But it hasn't. We don't even know the release date yet. It's with everything going on, it's probably going to be delayed a few months. But we'll be letting everyone know as soon as we hear. A lot of people ask us about it. Just don't know yet. Oh no, Borix, where are you? You don't live in the US or the UK. Well, if you're I'll have to find a way to get you one. George says they'll send it. should share that one, Ben. That's good. Subterranean Pits and Layers, who also owns Bogrel Express Co. BogX, that's fantastic. George, we'd like to make that canon. It's going in the sandbox. Boric says Rickety is the best boy, so I'm drawing him funny. Awesome. That's fantastic. Make sure you share it with us after. We'd love to see it. Subterranean Pits and Layers LLC. Oh, George, $3 it is. Subterranean Pits and Layers LLC is the company that Rickety Stitch used to work for, and you'll see their name dropped in a bunch of the books and all over the place. And they're a major faction in the Mucklan's realm.
Just drawing some ruins. The ruins of Rylock, which is a location with some quests that involve some Felmog Knights.
It's a little. It's located in. Yeah, the ruins of Rylock are in Book 1. It's one of the locations where Rickety and Goo are traveling through on their way to the crossroads.
Yeah.
Hey, Borix, yeah, totally add Goo. We'll look it up and retweet it. If anyone else wants to send us stuff, you can find us on social media at Rickety Stitch anywhere.
So I'm just drawing a couple little buildings to indicate a town. This is the town of Fire Damp, which is a little mining town that is we intend for the sandbox to start out in.
Right next to Wally's Waffles. And wargs. Good old Wally.
So I'm discovering pretty quickly that I just need a lot of like, design ideas for towns and stuff.
Yeah. Bye, Borix. Thanks for joining. George shares that he's got a million design ideas.
Oh, yeah? It's there's a difference between an idea and then like actually making it happen and making it look good. That's what I'm struggling with.
You know what might be cool, Ben? Is a mountain design that includes a little cave in the mountain. Georgie.
Okay, so this is what it's looking like right now. I don't know.
Well, it takes time. Got to get the general concepts down. Krog is hilarious. George says he likes it definitely. Well, we like you too, George. You're a heck of a guy. Heck of a guy.
There's certainly always a point when I'm drawing where it's like, man, this doesn't look good. How do I make this look good? And it really just takes time. You got to put in the work and you got to trust that you can make it happen.
That's a good way to say it. I'm sure it doesn't, Borix. I'm sure it doesn't. Art's about having fun, making stuff you want to make. Got an idea for Drippy Downs there. Could have a cool bridge. Like a nice, cool, stylized bridge where folks can... Probably the town of Dunk could be built around a bridge. The trolls, after all, they live under bridges. In the Drippy Downs location, the town of Dunk is the main town for the trolls that live in the area, and all the trolls They toll everything and tax everything all the time. It's part of their culture. So they're always hanging out under bridges, asking for a few coins to cross.
Going to just move the bridge closer to Dunk. Change the river, because we can do anything we want.
That's the beauty of art. Ben, you kind of channeled yourself into like a hard-nosed Bob Ross there for a second. Who's like, instead of like, you can do anything you want, because we can do anything we want. You want a happy little tree? I'll show you a happy little tree.
Look at that.
Look at that cloud.
It doesn't make you happy.
I ain't never seen a harder cloud than that one. They're all just happy little accidents, shares Georgie.
Now this here is a lake filled with snake men.
As it would be. As it would be. Whenever I go swimming in a lake, I always check for snake men. You never know.
You never can tell.
You never can tell. It's wild in the Land of Eem. All kinds of stuff going on.
Drawing some trees now.
Happy little trees.
Happy little trees. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. It sure is, Benny.
You just have to trust that the uniformity will make it look good in the end. Not each individual tree, because each individual tree looks terrible.
Maps are all about suggesting what's there so that folks reading them have a good idea what to expect. They're not about creating a full-fledged Renaissance painting. One thing I've always found challenging is the spreading them out like that.
What do you mean?
Oh, Reginald Val Johnson. Jake the Snake Man. It's a wrestling joke. The sum of its blarts, if you will. So Ben and I, we've been talking about adding another region to the Mucklands. We've been musing about adding a seaside region here, since we've got all this coastline, but not a lot going on in it. Maybe you guys have some ideas of what could be going on the Mucklands coast, aside from giant crabs, because we got those going on.
We got giant crabs. We got mer people. We got pirates. But yeah, the idea was just to make it its own region as opposed to part of each other region, because it's so different with the ocean and all the creatures that would be there.
I can't get over Jake the Snake Man. Stroke of genius.
Jake the Snake Man, son of Robert.
Yep. Canon. Cool little detail might be some like river reeds in river country and around the lake and such.
River reeds.
Like cattails and all that river stuff.
Might be good for the swamps.
True.
So we got some islands over here. We added this island right here just to put more adventures in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For all we know, there could be pirate treasure there. There could be the king of the crawdads, which are like giant crawdads.
Crawdads.
Crayfish, crawdads, a Louisiana treat. Another thing that's going to be pretty prominent in the Land of Eem game is rumors. And so as you're adventuring through the different towns and regions and of the Mucklands, you can encounter characters and learn about what's going on in other towns and how they connect to each other, so that players and game masters always have a reason to check out something new, or always have that extra little conflict or interesting hook to go investigate. And those are really fun to write. And we've got, I don't know, Ben, how many do we have? Hundreds of them?
Probably. Why don't you read some off?
Yeah, let me read some off. Let's pick a good one here.
Like we the design goal is to like have the rumors for each significant location, like have incoming and outgoing rumors to kind of encourage you to explore, follow whatever you want.
So here's some rumors about the Hellgrowth Mine that create a little bit of intrigue for anybody that's passing by. I might want to check it out. So one of the rumors is lots of the support beams have been sawed away by someone, and the mine is extremely unstable and prone to collapse. So it's dangerous. Nobody knows why they did it. Another rumor is that Lord Orfong the Defiler, who is the founder of Subterranean Pits and Layers LLC, is responsible for the corporate sabotage of the Azimuth Corporation and their utter destruction. And that the Azimuths are the ones that dug out the Hellgrowth mine in the first place. Another one is that the mine is believed to be haunted. People hear the clink of pickaxes in the middle of the night. Another ruins of Rylock. We talked about the ruins of Rylock earlier. One of the rumors there is that Felmog outriders have set up camp near the ruins and are rumored to be searching the area for ancient relics. So just hundreds of little quest hooks or interesting tidbits that are worth exploration or would be great to know before you show up and go into a mine that could collapse at any second. It'd be great to know that before you go on a dungeon crawl in there. So we've got about 5 minutes left, guys, before we end today's live stream. Are there any questions for us that we can field before we enjoy the rest of our weekend and get out of here? Ben, in the used to be forest, I believe that there's one tree still standing. But I don't know if we want to show that on the map or... I think you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, probably we do.
It's coming along, Ben. I'm digging it. It's a huge map, too. Reginald Vell Johnson 21 asks, is there a Mount Zodway? The answer is yes.
Mount Zodway is from the first comic we ever published, self-published in high school.
With a temple of the Shadu at the peak, yes. So in the Land of Eem, Shadus are like mythological creatures, and like there's constellations and myths and legends about them. I like the idea of Mount Zodway being part of some central Shadu myth, like Mount Olympus or something, whereon there are, a dozen Shadus that represent different aspects of humanity that can be worshipped. The Shadu religion. Everyone speaks Lamasu. George asks if we believe in Lupin. We do. We do.
Yeah.
There's a new Lupin movie that came out not long ago, right? It's a big deal.
It's pronounced Lupin.
Lupin. Oh, you beat me to it. Lupin. Something that could be cool later on, you know how old maps of the sea always have like a sea monster on it? Like, it'd be cool if we did something that was associated with the Mucklands. It's like some, I don't know,
A river soar.
river soar, or like maybe bandits, like in the used to be forests. Although that might be better for the middle route run. Where the bandit queen reigns. Right, guys, we're at it's 12 o'clock. We've been streaming for an hour already, making the Mucklands map.
Yeah, so obviously this is going to take a lot more work. I don't know how interesting this was, but I will probably do a lot of this work on my own, and maybe we can show it off at a later point.
So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. And if you want to send us messages or share fan art or do anything like that, reach out to us at on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube. Just look for @RicketyStitch, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who came by for the stream.
Indeed.
And, see ya.
Shout out to Darren and George. Reginald Johnson and George. All right, take it easy, everybody.
All right,
Have a great
bye.
weekend. Stay safe.